Nobody really knows why we're here. I like to think these gatherings come about because two people need to meet, you know? So meet somebody here that you hadn't known before. And also, I like to think that we come into these rooms carrying the lineage of the people we have loved and that have loved us. And when we meet, particularly in the glance, those lineages mix and meet. And so that's interesting to me. Here's some poems by Jalaluddin Rumi. You ask, why do you cry with such sweetness all around? I weep as I make the honey, wearing the shirt of a bee, and I refuse to share this suffering. I play the sky's harp. I curl around my treasure like a snake. You say, what is this I business? Friend, I've been a long time away from my center. What you see here is your own reflection. I am still raw, and at the same time, well cooked and burnt to a crisp. No one can tell if I'm laughing or weeping. I wonder myself, how can I be separated and yet in union? I am still raw, and at the same time, well cooked and burnt to a crisp. Fire is whispering a secret in smoke's ear. This aloes wood loves me because I help it live out its purpose. With me, it becomes fragrance and then disappears altogether. The knots untie and open into absence, as you do with me, my friend, eaten by flame and smoked out into the sky. This is most fortunate. What's unlucky is not to change and disappear. The black soil must crumble to give itself to plants. Think how sperm and egg become a smiling face and head. Bread must dissolve to turn into thought. This way leads through humiliation and contempt. We've tried the fullness of presence. Now it's time for desolation. Love is pulling us out by the ears to school. Love wants us clean of resentment and those impulses that misguide our souls. We're asleep, but Hitter keeps sprinkling water on our faces. Love will tell us the rest of what we need to know soon. Then we'll be deeply asleep and profoundly awake simultaneously, like cave companions. All of these poems are by Jalaluddin Rumi, and they were spoken spontaneously 700 years ago in Persian in Konya, Turkey, as part of the work of a dervish learning community whose work was the work of opening the heart and of exploring the mystery of what they called union. They used poetry, spontaneously spoken, and stories and music and movement and fasting and feasting and stillness and restlessness and television, Bach. They used everything that human beings do as a lens to look into the growth of the soul. And questions would come up. There was a lot of Q and A and Q in that community. And in an evening like this, maybe a question would come up: what is the nature or the purpose of desire? What is the heart? Rumi said the heart is not human and it is not imaginary. What are dreams? These questions, big questions, would arise. How much are we really these voices that we have? How do we know the quality or the depth of silence in another human being? What new architectures can we imagine that will help us remember old ways of gathering and being together? What is the source of the universe, and how does that connect with our individual awarenesses? Such questions like that would be posed, and then maybe during the course of talking and making up poems and telling our dreams, some kind of answer would come in the group. So I'd like to put that out tonight. Even more practical questions too, like where did I leave my shoes? Or should I go to law school? Or what's for lunch? So about 4 years ago, when the dervishes came here to Atlanta, I sat down with the direct descendant of Rumi, Jalaluddin Chalabi, and he said, "Now, what religion are you?" And I just threw up my hands. He said, "Good." He said, "Love is the religion and the universe is the book." In other words, life as you're living it is the sacred text for you. Just read that. Here is a poem that may try to answer that question about the purpose of desire. A young man rolls his head from side to side. Even though the bed is comfortable and a pillow holds his head, he has a living master, yet he wants more. And there is more. If a prisoner hadn't lived outside, he would not detest the dungeon. Your desiring knows there's satisfaction beyond this. Straying maps the path. A secret freedom opens through a crevice you can barely see. Your love of many different things proves they're one. Every separate stiff trunk and stem in the garden connect with nimble root hairs underground. The awareness a wine drinker wants cannot be tasted in wine. But that failure brings his deep thirst closer. There's enough wisdom in it. We can just go home. Well, if I could get that one. One night a man was crying, Allah, Allah. His lips grew sweet with the praising until a cynic said, so, I have heard you calling out, but have you ever gotten any response? The man had no answer for that. He quit praying and fell into a confused sleep where he dreamed he saw Hitter, the guide of souls, in a thick green foliage. Why did you stop praising? Because I never heard anything back. This longing you express is the return message. The grief you cry out from draws you toward union. Your pure sadness that wants help is the secret cup. Listen to the moan of a dog for its master. That whining is the connection. There are love dogs no one knows the names of. Give your life to be one of them. One night a man was crying, Allah, 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 Allah. You didn't know it, but Rumi wrote a poem about the cello. And actually he wrote it before the rebab. It's more like a violin, I'm told. But I'm going to substitute it, his poem, for the cello. Let me substitute that word for the rebab. The sound of a cello is a fountain. A friend coming near. Arabs say it's like a cloud bringing rain for the rose garden. The music of a cello feeds the soul. This music is a clear voice calling your falcon to the king's wrist. Crows can ignore the signal, not you. The knot loosens. The spring here flows sweet again. Grazing animals need grass. Dough, kneaded with the yeast of sleep, becomes amorous bread. Why is not more said of Jesus' loving? We know about the donkey. What about Jesus' desire? Perhaps God, who opens doors, did not open this one for him. Lovingness is the robe we wear to union. We gather inside this protecting music to talk about our love. We don't mention duty or restrictions or fear or good deeds or guilt about not doing them. None of that. We gather inside this protecting music. We're so lucky to have Eugene Freisen and his cello here. There are times and places that restore us to our deep self. One of those times for me, I have a little cabin up in North Georgia, and there's right next to it, actually it's on the next person's land, but that didn't hold me back any. There's a little spring there, and where the water, comes down out of the hill, and I cleaned it out, dug it out, and cleaned it out. Said put rocks around, down in it, and made it a pretty little place where you can go get a drink of water. I guess I ought to have it tested, shouldn't I? But anyway, I'm going to drink it no matter whether it's bad. And this is about that, doing that. It's called spring lizards. They say up there in North Georgia that if your spring has lizards in it, then it's little salamanders or something. It's good water. Where the filter of the hill empties, I dig a miniature circular lake, a foot across and a foot deep, and leave to let it clear and come back to arrange creek rocks around the ledge, and leave to let that clear and come back to fill a mason jar and a coffee carafe with Springwater. I have never been so slaked with the mystery of freshness. And now I've left for 2 weeks and come back to find tiny spring lizards living in the well place I dug. Little water baby salamanders under the sweetness of galax and rhododendron around the opening that leads up through reticulated rapids and invisible passageways, smooth with giving the patience and hallucination of groundwater into this mouth where beings play in the clear, like tongues, like sounds that hide so instantly, or pretend to hide. Nothing can actually hide its fear or its wiggly joy in so transparent a pool. I'm going to read another poem of my own. I have one of the forms that the beloved takes from me is my granddaughter, Bryony. Here she is. Can you see that? We have an organization, she and I. It's called Club. And we meet, and well, this poem is called Club, and it's about that organization. Some Monday nights, we meet after supper. No moms or dads allowed. I'm grandfathered in. The only organization I'm part of. No nation, no religion, no academic business anymore. We do science experiments like walking around the block to check on Hale Bop. She wears special shoes, genie silk numbers that turn up at the toe. She invents people that live in houses we pass. Teacher Jane with the lights on her arbor. She has funny hair, green. Uh-oh. Here comes a broken milk of magnesia bottle. It's the blue swamp. I'll carry you across. One night, we met at the new house they'll soon be moving to. She takes me upstairs to show which room will be hers, empty except for a metal office desk. Students have been renting the house. She opens a side drawer and tears off a piece from an adding machine roll. This is your permanent ticket to Club. I never had a permanent ticket before. I put it in my pocket, and later while we're drawing pictures, notice that it has monkishly careful writing on it, tiny calligraphy, amazingly, of the first 3.5 poems from Rumi's Birdsong. Somebody copied out the entire book on that roll. I do not pretend to know what's going on, but I was there, remembered into a body, a flock, when Bryony reached in like a little bird and handed me my permanently torn ticket stub to Club. Here's the first poem from that ticket stub. Birdsong brings relief to my longing. I am just as ecstatic as they are, but with nothing to say. Please, universal soul, practice some song or something through me. The chief event in Rumi's life was his meeting with Shams of Tabriz, who reminded him of the friendship that we all have with the divine. And he wrote an entire book called The Works of Shams of Tabriz, in which they're a new sort of love poem, an expanded love poem, in which even though he uses some of the language of the other categories of relationship, of romance and mentoring and discipleship, still his friendship with Shams, even though it was one of the great love stories, was beyond all categories. And they became a kind of atmosphere that they walked within, where everything was part of their friendship. Here are 5 poems from a book that will be coming out in the fall from Viking, a new book of Rumi poems from the Shams collection called The Glance. And these are 5 poems from there. Jars of Springwater are not enough anymore. Take me down to the river. The face of peace, the sun itself. No more the slippery cloud-like moon. Give us one clear morning after another, and the one whose work remains unfinished, who is our work, as we diminish, idle, though occupied, empty, and open. Time's knife slides from the sheath as a fish from where it swims. Being closer and closer is the desire of the body. Don't wish for union. There's a closeness beyond that. Why would God want a second God? Fall in love in such a way that it frees you from any connecting. Fall in love in such a way that it frees you from any connecting. Love is the soul's light, the taste of morning. No we, no me, no claim of being. These words are the smoke the fire gives off as it absolves its defects, as eyes in silence, tears, face. Love cannot be said. Learn the alchemy true human beings know. The moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door will open. Welcome difficulty as a familiar comrade. Joke with torment brought by the friend. Sorrows are the rags of old clothes and jackets that serve to cover, then are taken off. That undressing and the naked body underneath is the sweetness that comes after grief. The hurt you embrace becomes joy. Call it to your arms where it can change. A silkworm eating leaves makes a cocoon. Each of us weaves a chamber of leaves and sticks. Silkworms begin to truly exist as they disappear inside that room. Without legs, we fly. When I stop speaking, this poem will close and open its silent wings. Look how desire has changed in you, how light and colorless it is. With the world growing new marvels because of your changing, your soul has become an invisible bee. We don't see it working, but there's the full honeycomb. Your body's height, 6 feet or so, but your soul rises through 9 levels of sky. A barrel corked with earth and a raw wooden spile keeps the oldest vineyard's wine inside. When I see you, it is not so much your physical form as the company of 2 riders. Your pure fire, devotion, and your love for the one who teaches you. Then, the sun and moon on foot behind those. When I see you, it is not so much your physical form, but the company of 2 riders, your pure fire, devotion, and your love for the one who teaches you. Then the sun and moon on foot behind those. In those learning communities that tried to open the heart, they would often use jokes because they they noticed how human consciousness changes when it's about to hear a joke. Nasruddin is in the sanctuary, and he has his feet up on the altar, and they come and say, "Nasruddin, get your feet off the altar. It's a sacred, holy place." And he said, "Where shall I put them?" Nasruddin walks into a village, and he sees a wall covered with bullseyes, and just at different heights up on the wall and different distances apart. And every bullseye has a perfect shot right in the middle. A young man with a rifle is standing nearby. He said, "How did you become such a perfect shot?" The young man said, "Easy. I shot first and then painted bullseyes around the holes. That way I get a bullseye every time." Nasruddin reflects that there is some deception in the young man's life, but it has practical application. He has solved the problem that we all have with being off-center. You always have to tell 3 Nasruddin stories. Nasruddin buys a prize rooster and brings it home to his farm, and it begins servicing the chickens, and then moves on to the ducks and the geese and the sheep, and the dog. And Nasruddin comes out and he says, "I did not pay such an exorbitant price for you to have you make a chaos of my farm. And besides, if you don't quit this relentless sexual activity, you're going to kill yourself." The rooster pays no attention. The next day, Nasruddin looks out the window and he sees the rooster stretched dead on the ground. There's a buzzard circling down. He goes out to lecture the corpse one last time. I told you. The rooster opens one eye. He says, "Shh, when you're romancing a buzzard, you have to play it their way." These stories all have deep meanings that you should divide into groups and contemplate. I had a friend, one of the great poets, Bill Matthews, who died this last year of a heart attack, and in New York. He was getting ready to go to the opera. He was sitting in the tub, and I'm going to read a poem by Bill Matthews, and then one I've written for him. This one by Bill Matthews, let's see, is about a dinner party with, it's called Good Company. At dinner, we discuss marriage. 3 men, 3 women, 1 couple among us. All 6 of us wary. I use it to frighten myself. Our true subject is loneliness. We've been divorced 1.5 times per heart. The trick the last half of our lives is to get our work done. The golfer we saw from the car this afternoon, his angered face in bloom with blood, lashed his strict ball for going where he'd hit it. We watched him turn from a worse shot yet and give us a look like our own. And on we dawdled through the afternoon toward supper. Here. Here means the married couple's house, of course. The rest of us use so much time being alone, we don't entertain much. The wind loops and subsides. What a fine night to sleep. Upstairs, a book falls off a shelf. Strangest line in American poetry. Upstairs, a book falls off a shelf. We'll be sitting here ages hence. The scent of lawns, good company, sincere, fitful breezes suddenly earnest. What sense does marriage make now? Both people want jobs, the sad pleasures of travel, and also want homes. They don't want dark houses or to live with cats. They have lives waiting up for them at home. Take me. I must read half an hour of Horace before I can sleep. The conversation luffs. The last bottle of wine was probably too much, but God, we're happy here. My husband stopped the papers and flea-bathed the dog before he left. One of us has a friend whose analyst died in mid-session, non-directive to the end. Now we're drifting off to our 9 lives and more. Melodramatic wind, bright moon, dishes to do, a last little puddle of brandy or not, and the cars amble home. The door, the stairs, the sheets aglow with reticence and moonlight, and the bed full to its blank brim with the violent poise of dreams. They say the best French wines have terroir, meaning the taste of the lay of the land that works through and gets held in the wine, the bouquet of a particular hillside and of the care of those who work there. When I see Bill Matthews coming along, I see and taste the culture of the world. A lively city, a university campus during Christmas break, a few friendly, straggling scholars and artists. I taste the delight of language and desire and music. I see a saint of the great impulse that takes us out at night to the opera, to the ball game, to a movie, to poetry, a bar of music, a bar of friends. When I see Bill Matthews stopped at the end of a long hall, I see my soul waiting for me to catch up, patient, demanding, wanting truth no matter what. The goofiest joke, the work with words we're here to do, saying how it is with emptiness and changing love and the unchanging. Now I see his 2 tall sons behind him. Bill would not say it this way. He might even start softly humming Amazing Grace if I began my saying, but I go on anyway. God is little g, inside out, a transparency that drenches everything you help us notice. A red blouse, those black kids crossing Amsterdam, braving the cabs, a nun, you sweet theologian, you grew new names for God, gourmet, cleaning woman, jazz, spring snow. What fineness and finesse. I love Bill Matthews. And I did not have near enough time walking along with him, talking books and ideas, or sitting down to drink the slant and tender face of Provence. Here's a poem, another poem of my own, about that transitional time a few years back now, when your children go off to college, you know, that time when you're sort of through being a father and you try to forgive yourself for what you haven't done and try to celebrate what you have, I guess. So this is about that moment. The scene is New Year's Day, and I'm watching a football game on television, and my youngest son is there on the couch sleeping off the New Year's Eve in all of his top hat and finery, you know. And so this is called New Year's Day nap. I say I was the first in my family, I guess, to not take my children to church. And so this is somewhat about that. I did sing them these old hymns that I learned, these old shape note Appalachian hymns. So I did give them that. And some of those, the hymns or pieces of them are in this poem. New Year's Day nap. Fiesta bowl on low. My son lying here on the couch, on the dad pillow he made for me in the 7th grade, now a sophomore at Georgia Southern, driving back later today. He sleeps with his white top hat over his face. I'm a dancing fool. 20 years ago, half the form he sleeps within came out of nowhere, with a million micro-lemmings who all died but one, piercer of membrane, specially picked to start a brain-making egg-drop soup that stirred 2 sun and moon centers for a new painted sky in the tiniest ballroom imaginable. Now he's rousing, 6 feet long, turning on his side. Now he's gone. I sound low-key, but this is the way I howl an old hymn, in the plaintive bass drone, a charm for accepting what happens, and a stubborn question. Say, why in the valley of death should I weep, or lone in the wilderness rove? There's no one to worry about waking with my singing. I have loved them, those 2 boys, so well that they've left. We're after the fact now, out in nowhere again. We're I, and I am a line of music, wriggling along like water, wanting to be ocean. The cedars of Lebanon bow at his feet. The air is perfumed with his breath. Singing and talking, one vibrates with the other. Vapor, mist going up this way, cloud come back around down. The old fa sol la singers would not commit to words until they ran through the notes in broken lines of rain. The reverse of me, rocking my babies to all verses of Samantha or David's lamentation, who now in a shower somewhere murmur tunes they have no lyrics for. Allah mi la sol do mi sol mi mi. I never took them to church or told them stories about David or Samuel or Jesus, but they move like fish or tadpole radios in the mud, flat on their backs on a roof or breezing by. Maybe any motion is holy music, not only theirs, remember how it went, then forget. Sliding, forget more. Sliding air in the throat. This song, it seems so soon to quit any shred of unfinished existence. La la la, so so me. That somehow is unbelievably over. The growing of the corn, over and over. Our watery bodies keep moving. Hands give, eyes weep, feet walk, shoulders swim. The throat sings, the chest hopes, the genitals wait, and the thighs, their small stroke dancing work of balancing and lifting the thighs, slow move, a big river-like forgiveness we can jump in, I and my strong boys, now men. Some songs don't ever get completely sung. They're sung by the blood, inside creeks and rocks and air, in some cellular Beulah land. The harmonizing water sings them. Fa ti do sol fa mi la mi re do ti do mi la. Rumi writes about all different kinds of teachers. Here's one that he calls a kind of damaged teacher, called the lame goat. This is for Bill Clinton. You've seen a herd of goats going down to the river. You've seen a herd of goats going down to the water. The lame and dreamy goat brings up the rear. There are worried faces about that one. But now they're laughing because, look, as they return, that one is the leader. There are many different ways of knowing. The lame goat's kind is a branch that traces back to the roots of presence. Learn from the lame goat and lead the herd home. Learn from the lame goat. Learn from the lame goat and lead the herd home. All right. I am part of the load, not rightly balanced. This is a Rumi poem. I drop off in the grass like the old cave sleepers to browse wherever I fall. For hundreds of thousands of years, I have been dust grains floating and flying in the will of the air, often forgetting ever being in that state. But in sleep, I migrate back. I spring loose from this four-branched time and space cross this waiting room. I walk into a huge pasture. I nurse the milk of millennia. Everyone does this in different ways. Knowing that conscious decisions and personal memory are much too small a place to live, every human being streams at night into the loving nowhere or during the day in some absorbing work. One of the metaphors that Rumi has for the structure of the psyche is that it's a caravanserai. That is, that's a difficult word for me to use because I went to see all those, the Road to Morocco movies in the 1950s and 40s with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby and Dorothy Lamour. So I have a problem with calling the psyche a caravanserai. So I call it a guest house. I'm not quite satisfied with that. It's a place where emotions and compulsions and moods come. And you are not those emotions and compulsions and moods. You are the structure that they visit, and also the host there. So if jealousy comes up the front walk, you say, come on, yeah. I haven't seen you in 10 years. I thought you were dead. Or some ecstatic love comes up the front. You say, my pleasure, come on in. Or the sentimental sense of oneness with everything. You say, I knew your mother. Or a sarcastic, cynical doubt of anything spiritual comes up the walk, and you say, bro, how about that game last night? Unbelievable. So here's Rumi's poem. That was just my little riff on Rumi's poem. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight, the dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. It might be said that all of Rumi's poems are a conversation. You hear it in some Sufi circles that there's prayer. 3 ways of relating to the divine. Prayer, and then a step up from that is meditation, and a step up from that is conversation. And it may be that all of Rumi's poems can be overheard as a conversation, often without the quotation marks, even the little short ones. You know that one little quatrain, friend, our closeness is this. Anywhere you put your foot, feel me in the firmness under you. That's the without form being talking to the one that walks around. The second part of that quatrain is, how is it with this love? I see your world and not you. That's the one in form talking to the one without form. See, so there's always this, he says in other places that human beings are a discourse. They are a conversation. That's at the deepest level, that's where they are. This poem is spoken, even though I'm going to be saying it, it's spoken by the without form one, talking to the one that is born, grows old, gets married, gets divorced, gets a PhD, whatever, and is buried. And then there's another one that's just living through all that. This poem is spoken by that one, sometimes called the friend or the beloved. And this will be our last one. Thank you so much for coming. I can't see you out there, but there you are. Thanks for the quality of your listening. On the night when you cross the street from your shop and your house to the cemetery, you'll hear me hailing you from inside the open grave, and you'll realize how we've always been together. I am the clear consciousness core of your being, the same in ecstasy as in self-hating fatigue. That night, when you escape the fear of snake bite and all irritation with the ants, you'll hear my familiar voice, see the candle being lit, smell the incense, the surprise meal fixed by the lover inside all your other lovers. This heart tumult is my signal to you igniting in the tomb. So don't fuss with the shroud and the graveyard road dust. Those get ripped open and washed away in the music of our finally meeting. And don't look for me in a human shape. I am inside your looking. No room for form with love this strong. Beat the drum and let the poets speak. This is a day of purification for those who are already mature and initiated into what love is. No need to wait until we die. There's more to want here than money and being famous and bites of roasted meat. Now, what shall we call this new sort of gazing house that has opened in our town, where people sit quietly and pour out their glancing like light, like answering? Don't look for me in a human shape. I am inside your looking. Okay, we'll do one more. We'll do one more. Sometimes, I got a few more Nasruddin jokes. You can try those. Now, you all feel obliged to give me new Nasruddin jokes because you've probably heard all these. Nasruddin and I were walking along, and it started raining, and Nasruddin had an umbrella with him, and I said, "Why don't you put your umbrella up?" He says, "Oh, it's all broken, it's torn into shreds, it's no good." I said, "Why did you bring it?" He said, "I didn't think it would rain." Nasruddin is on the train, and the conductor comes to pick up the ticket, and he looks in his pants pocket and looks in his briefcase, and he looks and starts looking at other people's luggage. He goes to the restroom and knocks on the door and tries, "I think you've got my ticket." The conductor says, "Nasruddin, you often are on this train. I know. Why don't you look in your top left-hand coat pocket? That's where everybody puts their ticket, right here." And he says, "Don't even mention that. If it's not there, I have no hope." This last Nasruddin joke is, I'm not sure if it's a joke. We'll have to see it. It was safe to see if you laugh. Nasruddin has a magic wand, and he goes to a patent office. You don't know this. Yeah. He went to a patent office and says, he conjures up a patent office. He waves the magic wand and conjures up a patent office. And a man sitting behind the desk, and Nasruddin says, "I'd like to get a patent on this magic wand." The man behind the desk says, "We don't give patents on this New Age paraphernalia." And so Nasruddin waves the wand, and the man disappears. See, it's sort of a delayed joke, I think. This last poem is a poem that was spoken after a night like this, when they'd stayed up all night doing that practice they call zikr, or remembering God, and drinking tea and telling stories and poems. And they get to the end of the night, and Rumi describes the state of awareness that they're in. Well, he says that he couldn't describe it. It's just a state beyond, he can say what it's not. And what it mostly is, he says, is like the sun coming up. It's like dawn. And he makes an amazing claim in here. He says that there is a place in human consciousness that is prior to the existence of the universe and the source of it. Take that, you scientists. But it's an outrageous thing, but he claims to be there in this dawn poem. He mentions Hussam in here, who was his scribe, who took down the poems as he said them, and also Hallaj, who in 922 was martyred in Baghdad for saying, "I am the truth." In other words, I do have this place at the core of consciousness that is God. Sort of similar to what Jesus said when he said the kingdom of God is within you. That's a wow thing to say to the Jewish community. Maybe. Maybe not. I think of it as being the metaphor that the space inside a cathedral is. It's that inner space that is vast and unsayable. So here's the poem. Thank you so much for being here. This we have now is not imagination. This is not grief or joy, not a judging state or an elation or a sadness. Those come and go. This is the presence that doesn't. It's dawn, Hussam. Here in the splendor of coral, inside the friend, in the simple truth of what Halaj said. What else could human beings want? When grapes turn to wine, they're wanting this. When the night sky pours by, it's really a crowd of beggars, and they all want some of this. This that we are now created the body, cell by cell, like bees building a honeycomb. The universe and the human body grew from this, not this, from the universe and the human body. This we have now is not imagination. This is not grief or joy, not a judging state or an elation or sadness. Those come and go. This is the presence that doesn't. It's dawn, Hussam. What else could human beings want? What else could human beings want?